Hello, hello, hello. What's going on, everybody? What's going on, gentlemen? Running Rounds podcast.
They,
Happening.
Yo,
I'm
can we
Going on,
ready.
ask?
boys?
Can we ask for a better week one of football than that?
Absolutely
That
not.
was crazy.
That was
You
incredible.
Right
had,
where the playoffs left off last year.
you had blowouts. You had teams coming back. You had a tie. You almost had two ties.
So many 3 overtime games.
You had like 7 missed field goals between
Blocked
two
extra
games.
point descended into overtime.
Blankenship
Yeah.
got cut.
Crazy. Absolutely
Man.
crazy.
Dude,
It was fun.
I loved every
sat
second of that first week of football, man. That was great.
Absolutely
I sat
incredible.
on my couch. I had the laptop open. I had the TV on. I had my phone going. Yeah, fantasy football. It was beautiful. It was beautiful. I was in heaven.
Great. Well, let's go ahead. Let's jump right into it, man. It's another one. I had a tough time making these picks. We'll go into it. You got a Chargers team going into the Kansas City Chiefs. Both teams had wins. Chiefs had a big old dominant win over the Cardinals. They're one of the teams that had a big dominance over the others. I think they're just them and the Bills were the only two main dominant teams. And KC showed.
Surprise.
KC says, looks like they're saying, hey, we're number one again. Fear us. And we don't need Tyreek Hill. We've got 7 receivers that can do whatever I want them to do. Who you guys like in this?
Unreal.
To me, like on paper, it starts off a little tough because you look at the fact of what Khalil Mack and Joey Bosa did to the Vegas Raiders there. 4.5 sacks between the two of them. Khalil Mack had 3, and they had 16 QB pressures on 40 dropbacks.
That's crazy.
Dude,
I ended up going with the Kansas City Chiefs, and it was really tough because I think their first round draft pick Trent McDuffie out of Washington State or Washington might not play in this game, and that's huge because that they went and drafted him because they needed him. No Tyrann Matthews back there in the secondary.
Yeah.
You needed something. So it was tough for me to go Chiefs, considering how good the Chargers played against the Raiders. But I ultimately went with Kansas City because I like up front and what they've been able to do for the Chiefs. I like that linebacking core. And Mahomes just showed me exactly what I already knew, that all he really needs is Kelsey. Kelsey 120 something yards, 2 touches or a touch. And to me, that coach on the field and Mahomes is what ultimately pushed me over the edge to make that decision. Ultimately, I'm going Chiefs.
I love the front seven for the Chiefs as well. Nick Bolton was flying around making plays. Love watching him play. Reed back there in the secondary. The corners, yeah, it's a tough blow losing McDuffie. They're already thin at corner. You got another rookie coming in for that rookie now. I liked what I saw out of the Chargers. I questioned, back to last year, why are you letting these games slip away? And they nailed it down. I wouldn't say they nailed it down, as securely as probably what they should have yet again, because the Raiders did have the ball close to midfield with the opportunity to go take the lead in the closing minutes. But ultimately, Khalil Mack against his old team came up big. Bosa, you could tell the pass rush was better. You could tell how bad the Raiders' offensive line was too. I particularly stuck out at me when I look back at the previous games and stuff like that. Like, I expected KC to go out there and handle the Cards without a problem. What I'd like to see was the fact that Herbert spread the ball around to like 10 different receivers. It reminded me of what KC has always done, which is spread the ball and use all their weapons. They're going to be without Keenan Allen this week.
Yes,
that's
sir.
big. Insert Joshua Palmer. That's Nick's baby. I think the Chargers, who always play the Chiefs well, I think they beat them both times last year. At least one of the times, but
At least one, yeah.
I think they got them both times though. But I'm going Chargers here. I'm going Chargers. I'm going Chargers because I'm taking Herbert. The offense and I like what they've done on defense. I like the pieces that they brought in. They seem to seamlessly fit to where, some other defenses that I get into as we go deeper into the show, there were pieces that didn't seem to fit as well together. But yeah, I like what the Chargers got. Early season, Chargers usually start off hot anyways too, so I'm gonna roll Chargers.
I like it. I almost went with the Chargers based off of what that defense did against the Raiders. But I ultimately went with the Chiefs, mainly because the fear I had with the Raiders was that O-line. That was the reason I didn't have them going super far this season. I think they need to beef up that O-line until they become a threat to me. And that's why, you see guys like Khalil Mack, doing really good against his old team. He knows these guys on top of that, similar to what Von Miller did, to the Rams. He knows his old team. I don't think he gets to do that this week against a much better offensive line. Maybe later down the road when this defense, Chargers defense gets to, more together and click together, because they're still new together, right? You got a lot of new
Still
pieces
missing
on that
J.C.
defense.
Jackson too, so yeah.
Yeah. So I think when they face again, I think it's week 10, week 11, depending on bye. I think the Chargers will take that one, but I think this week, I think the Chiefs take it, just coming in hot. They're more ready, and I just don't think the defense of the Chargers will have enough this week.
I think this is definitely a coin flip game, so I can't really heavy hand anything. But the Cardinals blitzed 54% of the time against KC last week, which was tops in the NFL. And just similar to a Tom Brady, like Patrick Mahomes, you don't want to blitz him. He's gonna make those quick reads. He already knows what's going on. So they're not going to get that from this Chargers team. This Charger team knows schematically what the Chiefs really like to do. It's going to be just a really nice clash of wills in this game. So it's definitely could go either way.
It's crazy that you say that the Cardinals blitz 54%. They came up with 0 sacks last week. That's huge, and that's why that was the difference maker. The fact that KC gave up 0 sacks, and the Chargers kind of needed those sacks to beat the Raiders.
That O-line is playing out of their mind for the Kansas City Chiefs. I like the Chiefs in this one. I'm a Charger fan. I'm high on Herbert, essentially. I think they're going to do big things this year. I just think this is a really hard, tough divisional game. And
it is.
Everyone that shows up to the stadium to watch this game is going to get every single dollar that they spent on it. This is going to be a hell of a game. It was a very tough game to pick. Week 2 coming in. The start of week 2, what a hell of a opening liner to start the new week with. Hell of a game.
Hope you guys got your Prime Video locked in, because you're gonna need it, because this is the game you want to watch.
Hell yeah,
Absolutely.
Henry, we get a thumbs up or a thumbs down on the Kansas City Chiefs winning this week. Thumbs up.
He likes the Chiefs.
Let's go. Let's go.
Sorry, Charlie.
Let's go. We would have got the thumbs down. It would have been for the Chargers, but Chiefs.
I mean, I can't knock them too much. I can 100% see what Charlie's saying. I think it's going to be the week 10-11 game. I don't think it's this game.
Right.
But let's go into Sunday's games.
Let's get it.
You got the New York Jets 1:00 game here coming in, going into Cleveland Browns. Cleveland, I think at the beginning of the week, started at a 6-point favorite. They've worked their way up to a 6.5 point, kind of trending their way a little bit. I think the fact that Flacco is the starter again, Vegas odd people probably saw a little bit how little Breece Hall was used, and they stuck with Michael Carter. So they're not sure where this offense is going with the Jets, especially since you had Joe Flacco throw it 56 times last week, which is, I understand Joe Flacco is a passer, but you got to work something if your offense, especially with that running back,
try and get a little bit more balanced. Yeah, for sure, I agree.
But I do have the Browns here. I think Stefanski's a better coach than Saleh. He's a better game manager, and it's just similar game to where it was Cleveland versus Carolina, where it's just they're going to be the better coach team and just more discipline, less mistakes.
Becton going down. Zach going
went
down
again.
I thought he was out.
Yeah, he's done.
I thought he was done for the year.
For the foreseeable future. Plus Dwayne Brown that they signed, he's out too.
Yeah, Dane Brown. Yeah, I think Dane Brown. Yeah, I think he's injured too. Both tackles.
Up breaks.
So now we're talking about both tackles are chipped up. That's basically the strength of the defense of the Browns. Greedy, I think, is out. Greedy might be done for the season. I think he's done for the season. Don't quote me on this one. I'm thinking season, but if it's not season, it's definitely out this game. That's a blow. But other than that, I mean, I don't see any reason why the Browns can't pull this one out and be victorious, other than the fact that potentially, you're going to get Jacoby Brissett to maybe put it in the Jets' hands to make a move. But I just don't know if Flacco's going to be able to handle that Browns defense. Myles Garrett had a really good week. I expect that to continue to trend upward, and I think Myles Garrett will have another good week. Maybe 3.5, 4 sacks this game. I see it happening easily, for sure. I'm going Brownies.
Yeah, your defensive player of the year looked good. 2 sacks. The Browns defense was as advertised. Chubb and Hunt were as advertised.
Yes, sir.
I think Chubb was $120. Jacoby, I guess he was as advertised. 18 to 34 for $147. 4.3 yards per completion. The one thing that, because I watched a lot of the Jets and Ravens game, the one thing the Jets were successful at was stopping the run. They held the Ravens, which loved to run the ball, to 65 yards on 21 carries. If they can bring that type of just a little bit worse, and even give up 87 or under 100, or keep it at 100, and force Jacoby to have to put a little bit more on their shoulders. I look at the offensive side of the ball for the Jets. Breece Hall lost a fumble. That's probably why he wasn't so involved in the game plan. Michael Carter looked really good besides that touchdown drop that he had. Garrett Wilson looked good. The weapons looked good. They're going to have to protect Flacco. I think they're going to do a good enough job on offense, and I don't see the Browns winning this game. I'm taking the Jets.
Wow.
In the Jets.
Hey, Brady, I could have literally called that one. I could have called
another upset there for Charlie, 2 in a row.
I could have called Charlie stretching out.
I think the Chargers one is that much of an upset. That's a 3.5 point spread. True. That's a close one.
It is.
Yo, my man Henry. Browns. We getting thumbs up or we getting thumbs down? Thumbs down. Henry's taking the Jets. Okay.
Likes the Jets.
Okay. Wow.
With the weak O line.
Wow. Okay.
You're in the same room here as Mr. Trenches.
No, maybe
it's going to be lots of quick passes. He's going to have to get the ball out quickly. But Joe Flacco only threw 1 pick. 59 passes, 1 pick.
Good. That's good. No, that's good.
Braxton
Barrios had a nice game.
He threw for over 300 yards, he was one of only a handful of guys to do that in this pass happy NFL this year.
Braxton Barrios was the leading catcher.
And I'm not flipping on my projection for the Browns. I don't think they're going to be that good unless that defense is just stellar. I think they caught Baker Mayfield at a time where there was just a vulnerable situation. He wrote checks that he couldn't cash, just like we kind of talked about it in the last show. And he was just off his game. McCaffrey barely touched the ball. So I think the Browns looked a little bit better, than what they really are, which wasn't impressive. I don't think anybody was impressed with the way the Browns won barely by 3.
They're talking about potentially the refs are the ones that gave the Browns that win. There's a lot of chatter saying, there was a penalty called at the end of that game that ended up, pushing things in the direction of the Browns. Now, that's neither here nor there, but, I'm just saying the chatter. The internet and the shit people say, crazy stuff.
You never want things to come down to that anyway. So
I agree.
Take as much control of the thing as you can.
I think. Sorry, slow me down here. Lamar Jackson is a better thrower than Jacoby Brissett. So if they can slow down the run like they did to Baltimore, I can definitely see this causing trouble for Cleveland
It
Browns
just
here.
stuck out to me because Baltimore was leading the whole game, and what do you do when you're leading? You run the ball, and that wasn't the case. I mean, the whole game, we know the Ravens like to run the ball, and then when you're on in the lead, on top of that, you're going to try and run the ball. And
what do they only have, like 64 or 84 yards on the game?
65.
65, yeah.
21 carries.
That's
And
terrible.
see, well, the Browns last week, they had what, over 200?
Yeah. So it's
a headbutting.
Yeah. But that's why I like this game to be a lot closer. The spread's 6.5, like you said earlier.
That's crazy.
I don't see it. I mean, I don't see the gap.
Yeah, so basically, if you're
Flacco, I get the Flacco situation, and it's got.
You got money, basically. If you got money to throw, then you throw them on the Jets and you take the points right now. Basically, it's what my man Char is saying right now. You take the points, right? Because Char thinks they're gonna cover. I mean, this is easy. I mean, this is easy money right here. You know, I mean, whether the Jets win or not is irrelevant. You know, as long as they cover the points, you win. That's it. Get the money, baby.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, I'm still going. And you know what's crazy is the Baltimore offensive line is built to run. Like, that's what they are built to do. But I don't think Ronnie Stanley played in that game. And I think that this Browns O-line is we'll see. That's why they play them games on Sundays, boy. Another in the trench game.
Brady's right about Stefanski and the play calling. So, I mean, that's the edge. The coaching and that stuff is definitely there. But there's a lack of talent on the field. Like, the completions for Brissett, and just seeing how slow Amari Cooper looked, and it just nothing on the outside was dangerous. So if they do get in a close game or they are behind, I think it's going to be problematic for the Browns.
I hear you. Keeping the ball rolling though. Let's go on next Sunday game. You got the Washington Commanders got a win over Jacksonville, going into the Detroit Lions, who are keeping up with the Philadelphia Eagles, who are a stacked team. They ended up losing that game. It was a lot closer than a lot of people saw. I mean, I think Nick hit it right on the head on the money with 38-34. He said, and ended up 38-35.
Yeah. Shout outs to Nick. Couldn't be with us today.
The beginning of the week, Detroit was a 2.5 favorite. It's dropped to a 1.5 favorite. I guess they see I don't know what they're seeing with Carson Wentz starting off hot there last week. And then he almost threw the game back over to Jacksonville there at the end, but I had to go with the Lions. If their offense can do that to that Eagles defense, who is a pretty stacked defense, I know they're still trying to get used to each other, similar to what I think the Chargers defense is doing. But if they can do that to a Philly defense, I don't see what's going to slow them down against a Commanders defense. I know I said last week that the Commanders front seven is going to be top notch, but that Lions O-line proved themselves. They are ready to let whoever run. They're letting Swift break off 65-yarders. They're letting Williams run in for touchdowns.
Yeah.
That offensive line's there, and you still have Amon-Ra St. Brown on the outside, plus the new guy they just brought in. This offense is pretty scary when everything clicks. But I'm going Lions for that.
I mean, I 100% agree. I'm also taking the Lions. King of the concrete jungle. Let's go. Them boys are gonna come out and play for that coach to begin with. I love it. I love the coach. I love that attitude over there. They want to win. And I think they're trending up, and I don't see why this can't be a tough game that they pull out the victory, and they put the work in to come and get it. I'm going Lions on this one. I think it was an easy pick for me. I think that all this Lions team has been showing me is they've been gradually taking baby steps every single week in and week out to get better. And I just don't know that this is the week they'll trend down. I think they're going to continue on the upward trend. I'm taking the Lions.
I'm gonna triple down on you guys. 180 yards rushing last game, 6.5 on the ground against the last year's top-ranked rush defense, which apparently just got better in the offseason. So hats off to the Lions for doing what they did, because I think we talked about this game, and I saw no way that they just line up and they run like that, and they did. Swift's a problem, no doubt about it. The Commanders on the other side, they got the win, and Wentz looked pretty good, but I think that Jaguars secondary probably did him some favors and helped him out. And the Commanders gave up 123 yards rushing to the Jags, as Brady noted earlier. That's a big deal. And you're right, Eddie. The team, the Lions, they play for the coach without a doubt. And
I like it.
it's the first time they were a favorite in the last 18 months. That's the Lions. And I say hammer them, honestly. I think
Yeah.
it's not going to be that close. I think they're going to win by at least a score.
Pull the
Yeah,
claws out.
I'm going
and let 'em
Detroit.
rip. Pull the claws out and let them rip.
Lions
Yeah.
win.
Yeah, I mean, again, if the Lions, let that Lions defense, lets Wentz and that Commanders offense, start, causing trouble, it can be close, but at the end of the day, I think the Commanders are more likely to make mistakes, and then even if the Lions make mistakes, they're coming right back out, offense, defense, and they're ready to hit you.
Yo,
that's,
Reed.
that's what the man over there, Dan Campbell, does. He's ready, and he's got his guys ready.
Hey, Ree, we going thumbs up, Ree, or we going thumbs down, Ree, on the Detroit Lions? Hey,
It's a
thumbs
sweep.
up. We all around. Lions for everybody.
As good as Wentz was, and I gave him his props. Dotson, the rookie out of Penn State, definite stud, and then you got Scary Terry there. There's playmakers there. You're gonna have to show me more, and not that Detroit's defense is much different from a Jacksonville defense is, but I think chemistry-wise, the Lions are a much more galvanized team than the Jaguars are. And like you said, Brady, they just escaped it.
Hey,
So, yeah.
Hey, you guys know how I feel about the running backs. There's this guy on the Commanders. His name, Brian Robinson. I think week 5.
Week 5, he's making a comeback.
Week 5, they're talking. He potentially in the potential runnings to come back from a horrific incident in which he was attacked by 2 individuals, and this man came out on top. I think when this dude comes back and starts touching the ball, they start handing him the ball in the backfield. I think that's when you got to start looking at the Commanders and saying watch out potentially, because when this guy comes back and the team sees that, I mean, we're going to get some kind of motivate. You're going to have bulletin board material here that doesn't come along all the time.
Between him and Gibson,
Yeah.
when you see like the Lions, once you get a team that has a steady run game going, that offense looks a little bit more scary.
Yeah.
Week in, week out, right? I know Nick's high on Jalen Hurts, but we all have question marks on Jalen Hurts.
For sure.
Once that run game going, you're like, all right, slow down. This Eagles offense is something to worry about because they can run the ball really well.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah, I think not Washington. I don't think Washington Commanders are going to be able to overpower and go 2-0 this week. I'm taking Detroit.
Agreed.
All right. Keeping it going. Next Sunday game. Tampa Bay Buccaneers going into the New Orleans Saints. Both teams coming off a win. Bucs had a 19-3 win over the Dallas Cowboys. And then the Saints had a comeback win there in Atlanta. It started off rocky for them, and then they finished strong. They do what they do. They're a hard-hitting team ready for some action, and they played to it. This was a tough one for me because everything tells me I should be picking the Saints. They're a team to kind of beat the Bucs, right?
Yeah.
They are hard-hitting. They capitalize on mistakes.
Yeah.
They're
built
at the end
to
of the
beat
day,
Tampa.
At the end of the day, I do think their defense got weaker than previous years because of the Garner Johnson safety leaving. They got a new corner there, Adebo. Both of those guys were giving up plays to Marcus Mariota and their receiving core, and their receiving core isn't as in the same field, honestly, to the Bucs receiving core is. And then you have Tom Brady throwing the ball, who again I can agree with you did not look good against Dallas. He did make some good throws, but it wasn't, he wasn't the prettiest day of his career by any means. But yeah, I'm going the Bucs. They're a 2.5-point favorite here, and I think this is one of the reasons Tom Brady did unretire. He didn't want that sour taste in his mouth of guys like Davenport and Cameron Jordan talking all this trash online, like, oh, the Bucs can't even beat us, whatever. We're 4 out of 5 against him since he's been here. He's nothing. It's not a big deal. I think it's one of the reasons he's got that itch of saying, listen, I'm going to walk out at the end of the year knowing that you don't have that edge over me.
Wow.
Unbelievable.
Listen to that. How can I top that? Thanks, Brady. You couldn't go last with that. Jesus. Yeah, I mean, I'm taking Tampa. You know, I want to take the Colts, and I want to take the LASIK eye surgery. You know, I want to take LASIK just like everybody else does, you know. But I'm going Tampa here. I picked Tampa because I like Tampa. I like what they've been doing on defense with that up front. Shaq Barrett's a beast. Tryon, all these guys that they got, and then the linebacking core. I'm going Tampa. This is going to be a divisional game. This is one of those games that are just it's blood sport. It's just like I'm going to cut you, and then you're going to cut me. And now we're going to bleed a little, and then we're going to come back. It's just that's how this game's going to go. I love it. I love these divisional games. This is going to be a hell of a game to watch. This will be a good game. I'm taking Tampa.
Sure. I think both y'all hit the nail on the head. I'm going to go Bucks as well. Saints gave up 208 on the ground to Atlanta. I think the recipe for the Bucks is going to be similar.
Lenny.
I think you lean on Lenny. I was not impressed with the pass protection for Brady. You're going to be down Godwin. Yes, Julio Jones looked good, but it was tough for Brady to find him. It was tough for him to get time in the pocket. I think that whole situation will get better as time goes on. It's hard because, again, divisional opponent, a team that's really got your number over the past couple of years. And that offense, if it's clicking, looked really good. It was exactly how I asked the question. I said I wanted to see Michael Thomas. Can he be that dominant number one?
He looked
so
good.
That Olave and Jarvis can do work. And that's exactly what happened in the second half. Jameis looked really good, too. So I think this is going to be a back and forth, nip and tuck. It's definitely going to challenge the Bucs defense in a much different way than what Dallas was able to week one. I think it turns into a lot of points as it kind of traditionally does, but I got the Bucs coming out 27-24.
Hey.
Yeah. Yes, I think the Bucs win this. I think that itch of Brady is the difference maker. But for the Saints, I touched on it with them being, they're built to be, to face Tampa. They are aggressive. They are hard hitting. Tom Brady doesn't like that at all.
Oh, it's not going to be an easy win. Not
at all. Not at all.
And then I think the thing that Tampa needs to do in order to not lose this game is have that punter get that ball off faster.
Yes,
Marta, that new punter, because
that was a mess.
Dallas almost blocked it twice on his one punt of the game. They almost blocked that thing twice. And the Saints are I think more
known
aggressive
for special teams
and known for special teams. That their head coach, who was Dennis Allen or Den Allen, whatever his name is, he has his guys hard hitting, punching, ready to go. And if they can block a punt off of that man, because they were touching on it, him coming out of college, he's got one of the slowest punting. He's a great punter. He's got a leg of a horse, but that man is a slow from the time he catches it to the time of it coming off of his foot is slow. So that they need to protect.
That's a really good point too, because in these tight games, sometimes it comes down to special teams that we see in the playoffs last year with Green Bay and San Francisco. It could be the difference between a blocked field goal. We just saw it last week with Minka because the snapper was hurt. Little things like that, although they don't seem big on the surface of the grand scheme of things, that can be the difference right there. A punt return by Hardy, could do something too. So I mean, the Saints are a formidable team. Jameis looked really good last week. This is going to be a game. Bucs are definitely going to have to bring a better effort than they did against the Cowboys. Although the win looked dominant, I think they're going to have to play much better.
Ree.
Yes, agreed.
Ree, thumbs up, Ree, on the Bucs, or thumbs down, Ree? Thumbs down.
Thumbs down. Oof.
Thumbs down is a
before we move on, I just wanted to give, because I had touched on how Marcus May and then the Paulson Adebo guys, they were struggling in the pass game.
Yeah.
One man on the Saints defense, actually, he was on special teams. He was everywhere. That was all over the place making plays for them. Was this Will linebacker Pete Werner? I think this man. I think I watched him get so many tackles, and his helmet popped off like 4 times in that game. He didn't care. He was going. He was
He had a
hitting
strip
people
too, didn't he?
I think so.
And he had a forced fumble.
Yeah, he
former
was
Ohio
all
State.
over the place. I liked him. I liked his showing. He was ready to play, and that was part of the key to their success of coming back against Atlanta.
Yeah, losing
Um,
Chauncey Gardner is a big deal, but they still have a lot of good pieces on that Saints defense.
they
Lots.
do,
And they
and
play
then
with a lot of pride at home, especially. So it's going to be a banger. It's going to be a
yeah.
banger.
And I want to apologize now. I want to circle back to that Thursday night game since we just touched on special teams and how I said the Bucks
Mhm.
punter being slow.
Mhm.
You picked the Chargers.
Oh,
One thing I
Harrison
want to circle
Butker.
back: Harrison Butker being out. I know this the Chiefs kicker. He made that pat. That's a whole lot of difference. If the game's on the line, and you need to make a 50-yarder.
Yeah.
Yes. That was actually on my list, and I didn't say that being a little bit of a factor too was the fact that he was going to be out, and not to mention Mahomes got a wrist issue. It doesn't seem like it's going to be a major thing, but you get banged on it as we just saw in Dallas with Dak. So yeah. Little things in those special
things
teams.
like that.
You're
That
right.
could be the difference maker for the Chargers. And I just wanted to bring that back real fast because that's something that needs to be addressed because that could be a decision maker.
Very good point.
But we will bring it over to the next game there on Sunday. You got Carolina Panthers. Carolina Panthers going into the New York Giants. Panthers just had the loss to the Browns. Baker kind of failed on his promise to beat his old team. Giants kind of surprising everybody, upsetting last year's number one AFC team. I know we didn't have the Titans very high, but they're still a good team. They're still top notch. They still got Henry. They still have a good coach in Vrabel over there. But Saquon Barkley looked strong and healthy and ready to run. That Brian Daboll effect over there looking like it's ready to go. Jones wasn't impressive, but he wasn't making mistakes. That works out. That's the difference maker. The Giants do come into this as a 2-point favorite. But it's still hard for me. This was a hard game to pick because I want to say the Giants keep the rhythm. I like Brian Daboll, but I just think Carolina is a better, faster version than Tennessee. I just they as long as they can keep their mistakes limited, I think they can beat this Giants team. And so for me, I have Carolina winning this game just because Baker doesn't have that mindset in the back of his head, like, oh, I need to win this. It's, hey, let me go out there and play football this week.
Shout out to John Feliciano, center, New York Giants. He had a tragedy over the weekend, and he played that game anyway. And I think that needs to be brought to the forefront. He had some exceptional blocking in that game to allow Saquon Barkley not only to come up and get that 2-point conversion, but also that 68-yard run down the sideline was because him and the kid from North Carolina pulled and did their job. The rookie had a hell of a game. He wasn't the best in pass blocking. The Giants defense came up big with a lot of situations. I mean, at the end of that game, he missed that kick. I mean, the Giants pulled that out by the skin of their teeth. That was a hell of a close game to a playoff team from the year before. I was crazy last week about there's no way they're going to be able to pull out a win on Tennessee. There's no way. And I didn't pick them. And I'm not saying no way this week, but I'm not picking them. I'm not picking them. And I'm going with the Panthers. That secondary is elite with elite speed. Kenny Golladay still doing nothing. Kadarius Toney, nothing. And I understand.
8 snaps. That was disappointing.
Yeah, but I know why. I mean, the guy hasn't. I mean, how much of the playbook and how much of it has he ran and how much has he done? I mean, he hasn't had a good preseason. He was injured. He's coming back from that, so now he's healthy. And you're going to sprinkle him in until he gets acclimated and he's up to game speed. I mean, you'll probably see a lot more of a Kadarius Toney this week than you did last week. But I don't know that that's going to be enough on that defense who played exceptional against that Browns team. I mean, yeah, Chubb still had 100 and something yards rushing, but he didn't have a touchdown when it mattered most. He didn't go out there and get the points. I think the Panthers are decent. I think Baker Mayfield is decent, and I don't know that if we get Kayvon Thibodeau finally back and Azeez Ojulari finally back, their first game back, from injuries, that they're going to come and pull out a big one, because that's what it's going to take. Those defensive ends on the New York Giants are going to have to stop Baker from rolling out to do what Baker does best. You're going to have to shut down McCaffrey. You're going to have to chase that running back down. I mean, he's going to get the ball in the flat, and I'm not saying that, Tay Crowder, who just came and put a prolific hit, a legendary hit on Derrick Henry, in which I've never seen Derrick Henry ever touched like that since he put pads on. I've never seen him tackled like that before. Shouts out to Tay Crowder, Georgia, our linebacker out of Georgia, who had a hell of a game. I mean, these guys are playing really good. McFadden out of Indiana was running all over the place. I watched that game like twice, the coach's cut. I watched it like twice, no sound. My Giants played good, man, and the bowl got everybody, in the right spot and doing the right thing, and we played good. We played really good, and I think the Panthers are going to be just as tough as opponent as Tennessee is, but I think they'll be able to run the ball and do some things a little bit different. You know what I mean? Than what they had against when they were playing the Browns. I just think that, the Panthers are going to edge this one out, because I just think in the trenches, I think that up front for the Panthers is gonna bring it to the Giants' offensive line, man. I think so. I mean, Evan Neal had a hell of a game too. Not just Feliciano and that Josh. I don't know how to say his last name, but the kid out of North Carolina. Those three had a really good game, man. But Derek Brown and them boys, and I think it's gonna be tough, man. I think they're gonna have a good. I think the Panthers are gonna edge this one out.
Yeah, I'm on board with the Panthers as well. You brought it up a little bit with the Panthers defense. I think speed is going to be the theme on this one. It's hard for me to fathom the linebackers for the Giants being able to stay with McCaffrey. I think that he's going to touch the ball way more than he did the first game against Cleveland. I'm not quite sure what the game plan was there. I think the Giants secondary, which allowed Tannehill an average of 8.1 yards per completion last week, I think that's going to be an issue. I think DJ Moore is going to have a good game. I looked it up. 7 different players for the Titans averaged over 13 yards per reception. That's a problem. I know Eddie knew about the secondary coming in. You guys already got banged up in the preseason. Obviously, losing Bradbury in the offseason as well. I think that's going to bite them here. I think they'll be able to stand up decently to the runs. But
Robinson's out. The DB from CF is out. CF.
Yeah, that only hurts the cause even worse. The kid Dilliard, the backup to Henry, caught 2 touchdowns on 3 catches at 20 yards a clip. McCaffrey's way better than him. Way better than him. I think it's going to be an issue for the Giants. The Giants, it feels like there's finally a different tone to them, and it's only after 1 week. But even winning it as close as it was, or maybe it was lucky, he just missed the field goal, or however you want to cut it, the Giants haven't been coming up on top. And to come out on top and just, we talked about it with, is it a big deal to get a preseason win and stuff like that? For some teams, just 1 win is massive. Yeah. Just to the overall atmosphere of a bad team from the previous years, just to get that under their belt. So I like where the Giants are going. I don't think they get this one, though. I think the Panthers bounce back. I think Baker has a better performance. And just the overall team that the Panthers have, I like at this stage better. I think the coaching matchup's still going to the other side with Dable, but the Giants have some pieces that they still need to put together to consistently win ball games.
I agree. Hey, Ree, I already know, but nobody else knows. So let everybody else know. You thumbs up on the Panthers, or you thumbs down?
Panthers.
Or you thumbs down?
Panthers across the board.
Panthers it is.
That's probably hit it on the head. Theme is the speed is the theme.
Hell yeah.
It's gonna matter. Keeping the ball rolling. This next game, I had a tough one. To think of.
This was a hard one. Yeah.
You got the New England Patriots, who are somehow a 2-point favorite into this, going into the Steelers. Patriots just lost to Miami pretty steadily. They couldn't get nothing going on offense. Mac Jones has a back issue, and you're going into the Steelers, who I know there's a chance that Najee isn't playing. I know Najee telling everybody he's playing, but like Mike Tomlin said, he's just a kid who's hungry. There ain't no reason that I'm going to rush him in if he's not ready. We'll see. He's day to day until I say so.
Smart coach.
So, but both these defenses, they're top notch when they need to be. They're both well coached. This was a tough one to pick. I think at the end of the day, I'm gonna go with the Steelers, just because I think Mac Jones being hurt is more important than Najee Harris being hurt.
Najee's playing.
You saw Trubisky doing enough with the receivers to get going on a Bengals defense that should be holding its own against the Steelers. And he had 4 picks off of Joe Burrow, who that's unrecognizable of him. So that's where I got the Steelers taking it. I just think they can QB issues on the Patriots will hold them back from winning this game.
Yeah, that was exactly why I took the New England Patriots. I just wanted to say Najee's playing. It's TJ Watt that was what made this game hard for me to pick, and him not playing was huge for me. I mean, that was massive hit to the to the defense, to the locker room, to everything. I mean, he's huge. TJ is a stellar individual, and that's what made me think, like, hey, man, you got Judon in that defense that was struggling for, the Patriots. But ultimately, Pittsburgh, I thought their defense was going to be good, and I don't see why it's not. You got one guy who's huge not going to be on there, but I think they're going to put talent on the field, and they're going to put their best foot forward in this one. And I think ultimately Mac Jones being chipped up is going to matter more than TJ not being there, because from what I understand, Najee's playing.
Just for confirmation, you pick in Pittsburgh to win, because I thought I heard you say that the Patriots were going to win, so I just want to get a 100% confirmation.
Oh, I'm sorry. No, Pittsburgh. I'm taking Pittsburgh
to win.
Yeah, ultimately, I'm thinking that the Patriots having Mac Jones being injured and TJ not playing is going to be more of a. It's gonna hurt the Patriots more. And the Pittsburgh wins.
Gotcha, Charlie.
I'm on the flip side. I think this is a bad matchup for the Steelers. I think the Watt thing is massive, because that is what kept them in the game and allowed them to ultimately win the game was TJ Watt. We're not just talking about a really good player. We're talking about, borderline
player of the year.
Defensive player of the year in and year out, and how he affects it. I mean, he jumped up at the line of scrimmage and made an interception. The dude is just incredible. Do I think it just changes the whole Pittsburgh defense? No, absolutely not. Absolutely not. But I think him missing is going to allow the play action to be able to develop for the Patriots. They couldn't get that off against Miami. They struggled a bit running the ball. I think they get back to running the ball. I think the play action is going to be available. I think it's going to be a low-scoring, ugly type of game. I think Belichick and the defense bounce back in their own rights and are able to confuse Trubisky enough to grab a couple turnovers from him. Although I love the weapons in Pittsburgh. And Najee being banged up, he can play, but I don't think he's going to be at 100%. And at 100% last week against the Bengals, he did nothing on the ground. Absolutely nothing. I mean, and it was like he didn't play. So Pittsburgh still has his offensive line issues. I think Patriots bounce back, and I like the Steelers better long term this season. I'm not a big believer in the Patriots, but I think this is a bad matchup right now on Sunday, the way things are with not having TJ in there. So I'm going Patriots.
I agree on that. This one was 100% a coin flip for me. If those back problems act up on Mac Jones, then it's going to be, they were even at the beginning of this week, right on Monday, they were saying Mac Jones was going to be out for a couple weeks, and oh no, it's just back spasms. it changes day in and day out on how injured he actually is. So
yeah, if he can't complete the game, then you sway it back over to Pittsburgh. I agree. But if it's tightness, if it's spasms, if it's stuff like that, that's why they get shot up. He'll make it through it. He's still a young kid. As long as there's no structural damage, I think he'll be able to get through the game. He might be hurting like a son of a bitch after everything wears off after the game, but you get your adrenaline flowing and all that stuff. He should be okay. But yeah, if he can't go, then obviously I would probably have to switch it back over to Pittsburgh.
Hey, Reed.
And you're right, it's a tough call because I was on Pittsburgh immediately when I saw the schedule. I was like, yeah, the Steelers should get that one, but I let it marinate a little bit, and that's what I came out with.
Reed, Pittsburgh Steelers, thumbs up or thumbs down?
Tough call.
It's a tough one, huh? Ooh,
he doesn't know. He doesn't know.
What's the thumb doing? I don't know. What's the thumb doing?
That's why we get paid the big bucks.
All right.
We don't get to be on the fence, right?
Yeah. All right, next game. This one should be an easy decider. It should have been an easy decider for this team last week, but they ended up with a tie. You got the Indianapolis Colts going in the Jacksonville Jaguars. Colts tied the Texans. Jaguars ultimately lost to the Commanders. This one was a tough one for me because Indiana should win this one. They should have won last week. You have a top 5 offensive line. You have a top 5 defense. You have a top 2 running back. You have a top 7 to 10 range quarterback. There should be no reason you're not winning these gimme games. I know they're divisional, but it's tough. And then the second thing I want to add to this, do you guys know the last time the Colts won in Jacksonville?
In a couple of seasons.
2014.
Ooh, I didn't know it was that long. Ouch.
2014.
Wow.
Dang. I didn't know it was that long.
Yeah.
I thought it was like 3 seasons because you only play one game every year.
It's 9 now. It's going on 9 now.
Crazy. And the Jags haven't been good the whole time.
That's why this one's so hard for me to call.
It's almost going back to Andrew Luck, isn't it?
Yeah.
That's crazy.
No, Andrew Luck. Yeah, so Andrew Luck was drafted in 2012. So that was the starting of him getting hurt. Might have been even in that game.
It's crazy. That's wild.
Yeah. At the end of the day, though, I went with the Colts. I went with the team that's better on paper, top to bottom. I think this is the week they finally break the curse, I guess. That's all I can say because there's no reason they shouldn't have won last week. I understand Texans on the rise, and we want David Mills to look good. Raheem Morris has a head coaching job for no one knows the reason outside of the fact that he's super smart. He doesn't have the accolades to prove it, but he wasn't good in Tampa. He wasn't good in Illinois. He was an okay.
You talking about Lovie Smith?
Lovie Smith. Sorry, not Raheem Morris. Lovie Smith. Make my corrections. He wasn't that great over there in Tampa Bay. He wasn't that good in Illinois. He wasn't that great as a defensive coordinator for the Texans. It just worked out that he landed that head coaching job. And David Mills, I know he's that second-year guy that Eddie has going up. He's got the talent to do it, but they're still I think a reckless bunch of people. But they're talented, they're hard hitting. But Indiana should have this one, but they should have had they should have had last week. So I don't know, but I'm going the Indianapolis Colts just because I think Frank Wright's job is on the line ultimately. If
after week 2, that's a hot take.
After last season, you paid money and traded the trade to get his man Carson Wentz that he should have transformed back into the Carson Wentz he was with him in Philadelphia. So
yeah, their owner likes to win. He likes to be in the limelight. He wants to be a mini Jerry Jones, Irsay. So yeah, you never know. I think that's bold. That's a hot take.
It's a little bit bold, but if you go on to any Colts fan page right now, they're all saying, "Why is Frank Wright still here?" They're all saying
the end of the
it.
world.
It's always the end of the road. The driveway is so short.
Right.
I'm going
Not
Indy.
Indiana. Them driveways are nothing but long dirt roads. But
right. I'm going Indy here. It's time to break that losing streak. I'm going Indy here. That's crazy. I wish I would have known that coming into this, but I had already wrote this down on paper, so we're going Indy. I don't know, Jacksonville. I don't know. I don't think Jacksonville knows. I don't know. I'm going Indy.
Leaky Jags secondary made Carson Wentz look good. Matt Ryan balls out this week.
For
Balls
sure.
out. 3 touchdowns. Jonathan Taylor does his thing. Shaq Leonard's back. He missed last week.
Uh-oh.
That defense is going to feel totally different. And the Colts covered that 4-point spread. I think that's absolutely ridiculous. That's how much things go week to week. But yeah, Colts are still a really good team. And that was just it was a trap game, man. I could feel it in the back of my head last week that it's like the Texans are gonna play really good here.
They always do.
Matt Ryan was good. It wasn't his fault. It wasn't Taylor's fault. It really wasn't anybody's fault. I mean, 20-20. Both teams had a chance to win a divisional game. This is a divisional game. That's a crazy long streak. I had no idea when dated back that far. But yeah, it's like seeing a cigarette butt burning outside your front door. Colts are just going to stomp all over this and put it out. That streak ends Sunday. No doubt in my mind.
We started off the show talking about kickers missing field goals. They dropped Rodrigo Blankenship. I don't even know who they brought in to replace him, to be honest, but I think
I like that kid too.
He was, that he's a hard hitter. I liked his picture from last year when he's trading jerseys with DK Metcalf, because that was probably the goofiest looking thing you can see. They're doing a jersey swap, but he had some bad misses last year on top of being injured, and so I think they were just like, listen, we have to move on. It's just time. You had your opportunity. This was your year to not make mistakes, and he started off with couple big ones there the last week.
Like a year 2 player?
I think year 3, because I think he sat behind he sat behind Adam Vinatieri as like a part-time punter, and then transferred over to kicker.
Interesting.
Bro. Yeah, Vinatieri was there for a long time.
Yeah.
Since before Charlie had that neck sweater.
Might have been before I was born.
Might have been. Real Reed, what do you think, man? We going Colts
for a little bit.
We going Colts thumbs up or thumbs down, Reed?
There's a little bit.
Colts thumbs up or
Super
thumbs
Bowl
down?
victories on him, but
Colts
turn of the
thumbs
century,
up.
he was with the Patriots.
Colts thumbs up. Let's go.
Colts across the board.
Colts
They should win this, but as long as the curse doesn't affect them.
I did like watching the Jags. They definitely, you could see improvement in just the whole team, but they're not there yet. And the Colts are the class of this division, in my opinion.
Agreed. Keeping the ball rolling. This was another tough game going in. We got another Sunday 1 o'clock game, the last 1 o'clock game. The Miami Dolphins got a big win off of their division rival there at the New England Patriots, going into the Ravens, who just had a pretty standard victory over there against the Jets. And they didn't use their bread and butter. They didn't use their run game. Lamar Jackson wasn't that mobile. He was just a pocket guy last week, which was, good for Lamar. Showing what people say he isn't.
That Bateman over the top, that was beautiful.
Had no look to Duvernay too. I mean, he's seen him, but he still looked the safety dead in his face and threw it.
Yeah, I'll be honest. I got Duvernay on my fantasy team, and I just drafted him because I knew he was their. I ended up Googling that he was their second string. The opposite of Bateman. I had no idea who this man was, and I had him on the bench, unfortunately. But this was another coin flip game for me. It's how well can this Dolphins offense continue, and is the Ravens offense that good, or did they just play the Jets team that is kind of on the fence on where they are? Are they a bad team, or are they actually coming up? So I don't know. I want to hear your guys' take on this one first. I want you to convince me, because I don't know who I want on this one.
I took the Dolphins. And that defense with Agba. I like what they did week 1. I liked Tua getting the ball out. I mean, he had some ugly throws here, some ugly throws there. The very first play of the game, Tariq was wide open, and he threw it in the dirt. And, it's stuff like that you're just like, man, you wonder why everybody's saying what they're saying. But it is tough. It is tough, especially when I'm hearing myself say it. I watched that game. But whoever he gets it to just looks prolific, man. Like, Anytime any one of them players touch the ball, man, it's going. And you're like, oh, this is it, you know? And then maybe they trip and get tackled or they run out of bounds. But, like, any person who touches that ball, they have elite speed on that team, whether it's running back, whether it's wide receiver. Then you got Gisick, who's just locking it down with the catches. And I mean, look, bro, they don't even got to throw it over the line of scrimmage. You could just dump it in the backfield, and somebody will take off with it. Edmonds, Mostert. I'm going Dolphins here just because everybody's Lamar Jackson on the Dolphins. Everybody's Lamar Jackson. You know what I'm saying? I don't know. I'm going Dolphins here. I like the Dolphins, and, you know, maybe the Jets are sus, right? Maybe the Jets are sus, but... You know, and maybe the Patriots are sus, and that's why it made it look like that's why the Dolphins were so good. But we've been saying for 2 seasons how good the Dolphins defense is, and I think, you know,
sure.
Hollins looked good, and everybody looked good. I'm going Dolphins, man. I'm going Dolphins. But you are right, Brady. You know, I mean, if Lamar starts to stand in the pocket, this is what I said last season. If Lamar stands in that pocket and doesn't run, and makes you think he's going to run, and then just stands there and delivers it, that's what will make him the most nastiest QB there ever was. There ever were to be. You know what I mean? Like, I can't. It's like put some wheels on Tom Brady. You know what I mean? You know? You're like, whoa. Like, that's what Lamar could be if he stood in a pocket and threw. But I just think this defense of the Dolphins is going to be relentless. And I love me some Agba, man. Honestly. Emmanuel Agba, bro. Let's go.
Dolphins. You on the same page there, Charlie, or are you going the other route?
I mean, Eddie said a really great quote to set me up for my pick. And he's like, everybody on Miami is Lamar. And you're absolutely right. But the quarterback.
Yeah.
But the quarterback.
Yeah.
Lamar is the difference in this game. Lamar is the difference in this game. Also, I was pleased that I had kind of questioned the Ravens defense coming into last week, the first game of the season, and it felt like to me last season that maybe they had fallen off and they really weren't the Ravens defense that we had kind of come accustomed to. But they played really well. They got after the passer. They played really, really well. I think that they're going to do that to Tua. I think they're going to make his life hard. You're absolutely right. If anybody gets their hands on the ball, whether it's Chase Edmonds looked great last week, Jalen Waddle, Tyreek Hill, playmakers abound, but they got to get the ball. I think Baltimore's going to make that tougher on them, and I think Lamar is going to continue to shine. I think they'll use the run a little bit more this week. And, yeah, I like Baltimore. I think it's going to be close. If I had to say, I'd probably take the Dolphins with the 3.5 points. But to win the game, it's the Ravens for me. Yeah. And Lamar's the difference.
I like what you're saying there, Charlie, because as we're sitting here talking and what you were saying, I was thinking, you know, at the end of the day, they still have Lamar, right? You know,
yeah.
And so I think back to one of the most memorable games, as wild as it was and as kind of bad as Lamar looked, was that game against Oakland where, like, they scored, you know, back and forth nonstop touchdowns. And Lamar was making mistakes. He threw an interception. He fumbled it. And then his team gets their fumble and his team gets an interception. He forgot his mistakes and he moved right back in. It was like ready to score. Let's go.
Yeah.
And so I think he's more mentally ready for those scenarios than Tua is.
Great
and
point.
Then I think the key difference here is Justin Tucker. I think when it comes down to it, if it's fourth quarter field goal, he's the man who's going to drain that 64-yarder. He's not going to be a Brandon McManus and, you know, shank it left. He's going to hit that thing and win the game.
Miami's got a pretty darn good kicker too, Sanders. And yeah, it's splitting hairs. I think these teams are very, very close. I think ultimately at the end of the season they're going to be very close as well.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, it's